So you have backyard chickens or you're looking to get chickens, and one of the most intimidating things can be, how do you care for chickens all winter long? We're going to share all of the things that we've learned along the way to help keep your chickens safe and healthy over the winter.
Over the years, we've had like 3 different chicken coop setups. We started with just your basic, like, it was from Costco. It was a kit coop that we just put together. We fit 6 chickens inside of it. Then we built like a chicken tractor that was a little bit bigger, fit some more chickens, and it was like a mobile coop that we pulled around our yard. And now that we're on we have 5 acres that we're on now, and we built a chicken coop inside our barn, and that's where we keep our chickens. And so we've learned a few things about each of those setups and how to kind of make them work over the years. Just to get right into it, one of the most important things is just preparing your coop for the winter. And so one of the biggest things that you'll want to think through is wind exposure, and that's going to be one of the biggest threats to your chickens in the winter time. And it's just kind of figuring out how to keep that coop sealed off from the elements as much as possible, kind of insulated. And so what we did, now that they're in the barn, they kind of have 4 walls around them, and it keeps pretty warm inside the barn for them. But when we just had a coop in our backyard, one of the things that we did before, as fall was setting in and before winter hit, is that we took like plastic, like pretty thick kind of plastic sheeting that you could get at like a hardware store. We put probably like a double layer of that plastic around the coop, and I think we at least made sure to do 2 sides so that there was kind of a good wind barrier, but you're probably best off doing like 3 sides, maybe even all 4 sides. You want some ventilation and breathing, so you don't want to completely seal off your coop, but that was what we did. You want to staple it in there really good, because it does get windy and you don't want that plastic tearing off and blowing off. But if you can get a good layer of plastic around kind of the run part of your coop, that's really going to help your chickens, because otherwise they're going to have a really hard time dealing with the cold, and they're going to be so much more exposed when it's windy and it's below freezing, kind of fending for themselves.
So then the next thing is going to be, you want to keep your coop really dry. Frostbite is one of the things that's the biggest can hurt chickens in the winter, is getting frostbite. And so the biggest way that you can prevent that is by keeping their coop nice and dry.
Yeah, and so make sure you have extra bedding on hand, lots of straw or wood shavings or leaves or whatever you're going to use, just dry bedding that you can kind of keep adding on. And we've always used kind of like the deep bedding method, where you just kind of keep adding layers on throughout the winter. Right? Coops, you're not really going to get in there very much and clean out your coop during the winter, but if you keep adding layers of dry bedding on top, it really helps to kind of absorb all the moisture. And then actually, as the layers, like the deeper layers, start composting, they actually start creating heat in the coop. And so you kind of create your own sorts of heat, which is really helpful for your chickens to have that. So you just want to always, whatever, weekly or every couple days, be adding fresh layers so that chickens stay dry, and that will help keep them dry and warm even throughout the winter.
And then at the end of the winter, you have a whole bunch of compost.
Ready to go for your garden in the springtime.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Another big thing to keeping chickens safe and healthy is to making sure they have fresh food and fresh water every day. So especially the water piece is important, because especially if you get to be those really, really cold, below 0 sort of days, the water can freeze pretty quickly. And so you want to make sure you have a source of either heated water or something that's going to keep that water from freezing.
Yeah, so they sell like these heated water bases that you can go out and buy at the store, and they're sort of expensive. And we kind of have this DIY mentality of, we're just going to try and make everything ourselves. And I've tried a lot of different types of heated waters over the years. One of the common ones you find is a cookie tin out there, where you add like a light bulb to a cookie tin. But like light bulbs inside like high moisture areas is just not a good idea. And I was having to replace that light bulb weekly during the winter, and it was not very fun in 10-degree weather. So I came up with kind of this like a cinder block or concrete block heated water base that uses a like heat tape element that runs inside of it. So we have a whole separate video that we can link to for that, but that's worked out great. We had zero issues with our water freezing this last winter, and it worked great.
We're in the
super easy to
Midwest,
make.
so it can get really cold
Yeah, there's
here.
some pretty cold days
Yeah.
and stretches, and the water always stayed not frozen this winter.
Another thing you'll want to make sure to do in the winter is collect your eggs regularly. So especially on those real cold days, the eggs can freeze. So if you're only collecting eggs like once a day at the end of the day, they could very well be frozen. Again, that might not be possible if you're gone all day, but if you are around and are able to check a few times throughout the day, that will be helpful. Otherwise, we've used frozen eggs before. You can. We just let them thaw and then we've used them. You might not, they might not be the best for like an over easy runny yolk sort of an egg, but for scrambling them up, they work just fine. But if you can harvest, or if you can collect them earlier, that will help you.
Yeah. Another question is like about heat lamps. Are heat lamps necessary for your chickens? We did when we had backyard chickens and we just had a kind of a exposed coop. We did have a heat lamp in there, and we'd turn it on like the really cold days, and I think that did help. Now we haven't used one at all in our barn, and they've been totally fine. So I think it's just up to you. I think it's more of like observing your chickens, and if they are seeming like miserable,
Yeah.
Heat lamp could certainly help. One of the things before winter hits, you'll want to have a plan in place for that heat lamp. So have your like electrical, power run to the coop and have a heat lamp on hand and ready to go. And you don't want to be like at a point of desperation and trying to scramble when it's like 10 degrees out or whatever and get all this together. You want to have that set before winter hits in. And yeah, I think there are situations where heat lamps are fine, but they're probably not 100% necessary either.
And I think we've always found that wherever we put it, like whoever the head chicken was or the head couple in the pecking order would like get up close and push all the rest of them out of the way. So it was like a couple chickens enjoyed the benefits of the heat lamps and the rest of them were like left in the cold. But they really know how to take care of themselves, and they do cuddle up and they really do fine. And so which I think kind of leads into the next question is, are there better breeds of chickens to get that are more winter hardy or do better in the cold? And we have had a lot of different chicken breeds. I mean, probably 10 to 15 different chicken breeds.
Yeah.
And honestly, I have not really noticed a difference in some doing better than others. I think there are a very wide range of chicken breeds that you can get that do really, really well in the cold. And so
a lot of the standard ones, your Rhode Island Red, Barred Rock, Buff Orpington, Americanas,
Easter Eggers.
Yeah, those are all like if you're in like an extreme cold environment, you might want to do some more research and find out like what the most cold hardy breeds are. But those ones are all going to generally do fine in kind of your standard climates. So and one thing about like frostbite too, like animals know how to take care of themselves, and they're pretty hardy. Like we've had some minor frostbite happen on some of our chickens, and it does generally go away. Like one of our roosters got some on their comb, and within a month or two after winter, like that healed up fine and went away.
And he's totally normal.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's kind of some of the tips and tricks on how to take care of chickens in the winter. And we would say, don't be intimidated. Really, it's just another part of caring for them, but you'll be fine. They'll be fine. Just kind of put together some of these measures in place, and you guys will have a great winter. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.